including his YouTube channel. And everything's down there. Buy me a coffee if you want to support him as well. But my first question for you then, Dan, is how does a comedian who plays the piano with his pecker and is partial to the Pablo Escobar powder end up running Ukraine? And he's supposedly, of Jewish descent, yet he's running Ukraine in collaboration with neo-Nazis. What kind of bizarre story is this?
It's one of the greatest CIA stories ever told. They're, I mean, for people who never flip the script, never even change the font, these guys have like, wait. Yeah, but that's the same thing we did with Pinochet. That's the same thing we did with Mossadegh. That's the same thing we do with Arbenz. Shh, don't. The margin needs to be 0.7. They don't want to change a goddamn thing. And it works for them. And so it's like, I can imagine them sitting around a table saying, what if he was also a Jew? Oh, that's good. That's a good one. The thing is, okay, to be fair, to be like straight up, Kolomoisky bought him, hired him, right? In this universe, unlike Poroshenko before him, unlike Trump and Musk now, the oligarchs don't usually sit in the seat of power. They hire people. They don't mow their lawns. they don't paint their houses. That is grunt work, and running the empire and doing the shitty, dirty work is not. Oligarchs don't generally like that. So Kolomoisky hired this guy, and he actually was hired on a very different agenda. That's the whole thing. It was against Poroshenko. Poroshenko started the ATO, the anti-terrorist. Everyone who speaks Russian is a terrorist. Every baby who has any Russianness or Russian is a terrorist. They're all terrorists. It's like the Israelis or the Palestinians. We've got a whole, a hospital full of baby terrorists over here. We got to get rid of. So, in opposition to that, sort of, it was, okay, let's make peace with the Russians. Let's do this 30-year toggle of the Russian half and the Ukrainian half, and it's a really bad thing. It's like the Berlin Conference, right? When you just draw random lines through the Sahara and say, I say, there's a country here. I want one here. No, you can't have that. We have that one here. And there are mountains and rivers and languages and reasonable boundaries that separate countries. These are all mean nothing to the powers that be. And so they were trying to do this tilted Ukrainian thing for 30 years after 91. And it all blew to hell because when Zelenskyy went to the front, right, to be his own comedian, piano pecker self and make everyone laugh, I guess, the Nazis told him, hey, shut up. You know who you work for? You work for us. And we're here to kill Russians. This is, I don't know if you have seen it. This was on like international YouTube. Like this is caught on video. It was a shocking turnaround. And he said, I'm the president of Ukraine. And they said, big effing deal. That has nothing to do with us. And we're here to kill Russians. And we're going to keep on going. And he flipped immediately, got into this thing where he said Bandera was a national hero, right? I can't do anything about that. He's a national hero. It's like saying, okay, well, Hitler had a lot of friends. I'm just saying. I don't know. Like, no, you're not just saying, you're saying. You can't do that. You can't just say. And he has been phenomenal in that role. But I think it's brilliant. Thank you, Sean, by setting that stage. Here is the comedian turned actor turned president. That's what he is. That's what he's always been. It's never been anything else. And the idea that he is anything else is a Western propaganda hoax. And it's like it is. I mean, even being a guest on your show is a breath of fresh air to hear that, as opposed to being, I don't know, at a family gathering in America, at a bar, and hearing people say how great Zelenskyy is. I go like my local fire chief is a friend of mine, went to high school with him. He went to Ukraine and delivered, fire equipment and stuff. I mean, it has taken hold of the brain of the Western mind like you would not believe. It's unbelievable how brainwashed. And I mean, I'm not an idiot. I've been living here for all my life, and I saw the brainwashing in Vietnam and the Contra thing and everything. All, especially when it comes to foreign policy and, like you said, the military-industrial complex. They grow from Bernays. They grow from Freud's nephew, how to meld the mind. And they have done this in this instance beyond, it's shocking, beyond belief. But that is the truth. This is a guy that was hired by an oligarch, and oops, it didn't work. It didn't work with Pinochet either, right? It didn't work. I mean, how do you keep playing the game? It doesn't work with any of them, and they just shunt them, push them aside, and say, "Oh well, no, game over."
So, folks, if you've just joined us, I'm here with Dan Welch, and he has been prescient on how things are evolving with Russia and Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, Iran. I've been watching him for months now. Phenomenal research and commentary with wit and accents, as you've just seen. If you just joined us, we are going over the backstory of how the Pekka piano player got into power with the neo-Nazis to run Ukraine. Now, Dan, you did mention, at the family barbecue or whatever. So when I was having dinner with my family here recently, I said I was trying to explain this to my parents, and that they immediately went on Wikipedia. They went on Wikipedia, pulled up Zelenskyy, and said, "No, Sean, he won by a landslide. It was a democratic election. It says right here on Wikipedia, he won by a landslide." What's true? How would, if you were present at that dinner with my parents, what would you say at that point?
That's not fair. How do you say? I have learned in the past 5 years, I have learned to say no beyond my wildest imaginings. And it's just going to devolve into this. But when you look at, I don't know how far back. I mean, parents obviously are a generation advanced.
Oh, look like he'll be right back, folks. Here he is.
Oh, sorry. Did I go away?
Ooh. Yeah, you're back. You're good. You're good. Keep going.
Parents are a generation removed, so it's even more shocking that you say, like, you guys lived through World War II. Like, what are you thinking? This was the leave behind strategy. This is like George Costanza in Seinfeld, like a Trojan horse. You leave the Russian hat behind so you can get a second date. That's Operation Gladio. That's leave the Ukrainian Nazis. Everyone knew this. Everyone has known this for 2 generations since the 30s, actually, that this was the supremacist Western plunk of Aryan superiority that was, and you look, you can see this on the YouTube thumbnails or the Facebook profile pics. It said 1939 to 1945, only freedom in Ukraine history. It's like, whoa. geez, you guys really believe that shit? I mean, that is crazy. And you see a woman there's bowing down to a statue of Bandera, you know, and doing this thing and leaving flowers and everything. I mean, that is impossible to shunt, to kind of deny. And of course, what is interesting is that they didn't deny it. They were on all the bad lists up until 2021. When did they start changing? Like, you know, we may need these guys to go public, right? The CIA has lists of everybody, and MI6, you know, I mean, well, there's also those rumors that he actually is an MI6 asset. That's how Kursk happened. That's how the Brits got so involved in even more so than the Americans. That's why they're at each other's throats, sort of. Now, who knows, you know? But in terms of how the elections work, I don't know what to tell people about the concept of the velvet or what? No, orange. No, I mean rose. You know, enter your color / favorite spice here. Revolution, right? How do you have 100,000 people show up with pre-made flags and signs in exactly the same font and say that it is spontaneous? You know, that's not how it happens. It's like Hallmark inventing Mother's Day or Halloween, or no, I meant to say Valentine's Day, right? This is what romance is. This is what revolution is. No, it's not. I mean, Stalin was famous for saying it is not dinner party. Revolution is not dinner party. And it's also not like a flag waving, yay, you know, where everyone shows up in the same color. That's crap. And some people see it and most people don't. And that's a huge problem, I don't know, in the human psyche. I don't know. What is it? Is it, you know, why don't you see like, oh, this smells bad. Why? Well, they all, yeah, I know. Isn't it great? They all got together. They all have the same sign, you know. And that's the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, 2004. Timoshenko, this one, that one. I have a hard time. It's like following a Russian novel. Oops.
Well, the narrative, one of the narratives being reinforced here is by Piers Morgan, who's saying the whole situation has come about because Putin, as aggressive as Hitler, has invaded a sovereign nation, and he's going to take Ukraine, and then he's going to, you know, possibly take other countries in Europe. And that's where the war started. It was Putin's decision. He's an evil person, and there's no backstory given. You know, beyond that, that's and the mainstream just completely repeat that here in the UK.
And he repeats it, even though he constantly has very good, smart guests all the time who are telling him the truth over and over and over again. And it's like, again, like I'll go not Seinfeld, let's go Simpsons, right? Where you have the judge at the very end with the rubber gavel. Boing, I declare everything to be started the same as it ended. Boom. And we're starting with a newt. Oh, and then they say, now you're talking about democracy. Like, I saw yesterday's show, and he made you look like an idiot. And so now I have to go on, do all that research, and speak all that again? Like, I don't know how people like, and I hate to individualize it because I think you rightly point out from the beginning, this is systemic. This is how it works. And he knows that you just unplug and replug and you start a new conversation and you get the tailwind of that public narrative. You can keep cruising. It is so disgusting. And the rest of us keep like chewing like mice like chewing at the base of the fat, if there's any there. No, but I said that time. If I say it again, maybe they'll listen. If I say it again, and you go up against the Piers Morgan's, and yeah, Piers Morgan doesn't need a history lesson, but he that's the point. He gets one every time he has someone on. He has a Palestinian journalist on, and he'll say, but I was thinking. Well, no, Piers, you weren't. That's actually, you weren't thinking at all. And that's the problem. And critical thinking is huge. I mean, that is the basic, that's the brain function of what we're talking, and the system that evolves from teaching people to think a certain way and not just to think. Like, I don't know, I made the reference to Bernays, who is kind of recognized as the father of public relations. And he happened to be the nephew of Sigmund Freud. But one of his main things was this idea of selling cigarettes, doubling the marketing of cigarettes by having women. It was unfathomable for women to smoke. It was unladylike. It was just disgusting. And then he thought it was a sign of independence. And they sold these, what is torches of freedom, right? That was the thing. It was torches of freedom was the campaign to double the sale of cigarettes. And it works in the 20s, right? And that is what, if you're Gordon Gekko, you know, you might say that's brilliant. But if you have a human soul instead, you might say that's disgusting. Why work on that side of the human brain? Why not work on the rest of the human? We don't use most of our brains. So why not work on the things that matter, that people want to trust other people want to help other people want to be part of something bigger than themselves? All of that is also human nature. You hear that. I mean, not only from your parents. I mean, in general, this is the whole charade. It's not human nature. Human nature. What does that mean? When are we going to change all the laws and repeal everything that finds people guilty for being greedy and for stealing and for their shyster behavior and their like deceiving? No. And you have the church, you have the law, you have the social interaction. Everything teaches people that they should be a certain way. I'm a teacher. Use your inside voice, right? I don't know. Act like you're in the library or the museum. Don't hit your classmates, or Mr. Danny will be really mad. And why does that somehow evaporate in the face of global capitalism and the military industrial control over human thought? That's what is so frustrating.
Folks, if you just joined us, and with Dan Welch, all of his links in the description box. He's got his own channel. Let's get his subscriber count moving up, please, because he's just recently started on YouTube. He's doing phenomenal work, and the things that he has talked about are coming to light. This is why it's very important that he's here this evening. If you've missed what we've been talking about so far, we're talking about the genesis of Zelenskyy getting in power through the oligarch who put him in power, this comedian, in concert with the neo-Nazis. And you talked about people having no souls. So Boris Johnson, for example, he has recently, because he's been called out so many times by independent researchers for scuppering the peace deal and having the blood of over 1 million young Ukrainian people on his hands. It's savage, you know, the battlefields over there, the corpses.
This war was over.
And he you know, the theory was that he scuppered the peace deal So that blood is on his hands. But now he's recently said it wasn't him that scuppered it. It was the neo-Nazis. So what?
So, so what? I don't know. Like I said, I'm a teacher. I deal with kids. You deal with a 9-year-old, tell a 10-year-old, but she was the one who spilled it. I don't give a shit. Clean it up. I don't know. Why would I care whether it was? And of course, it's true that when you hire the most disgusting proxy that you can find, and like we were saying at the beginning, it's like, oh, good. They're sitting around in a circle. That's a good one. Oh my God, that's a good one. You find the most evil. Look at, Somoza in Central America, and you have going back to Roosevelt. FDR said, well, he may be a son of a bitch, but he's our son of a bitch. Right? Then it was in the 80s that you learned that this guy's National Guard had little boys at gunpoint being forced to swallow a button on a string and pull it up and swallow it and pull it up. That kind of torture was constant. Like, it's your fault for hiring the murderer. If it hadn't been for Johnson, it wouldn't have happened. Minsk 2, Minsk 1. If even forget Minsk and go to the Putin's speech at the Munich Security Conference saying, look, guys, this is going the wrong direction. I don't know if you understand. Hi, I am Vladimir. I would like you to see all my nuclear weapons. You have lots. I have also lots. Yes. And that's so why can't we can talk like peoples, but no, they just push and push and push. And Bojo, I used it. I'm sorry. Please forgive me for using Bojo. But that should have been the end of the war. May of 2022. Less than 2 months after it started, Istanbul. And it didn't even need to start. But Merkel says that they knew all along that Minsk was a scam, right? So it's like, do they not know that they're pushing toward really World War III? Do they really not know that, or are they doing it anyway? I know some of them own islands and bunkers and have clones that are going to do their work. I suppose, but that doesn't really cut it. There is some sort of communal self-delusion that has to be permeating the Western mind in order for it to work. I think. I don't know, but maybe that's because I grew up here. And you too, it's like, wait a minute, why do these people believe that 2 + 2 is 7? What is going on here? And we made it. I'm 60. You deal with it in your personal life, in your political life, in your family life, all along. And how did you deal with your parents? What do you say? Like, no, you try, and then you just agree to disagree? Is that the general thing that happens? I don't know, because that's something like that.
I just tell them what I've learned from interviewing people like you, and how I'm
sure,
convinced,
yeah, blame me.
I'm convinced that the same media that told us Saddam Hussein has got weapons of mass destruction and is now telling us Iran's got weapons of mass destruction, I wouldn't be listening to them, Mum and Dad. That's what I say. Right.
Well, where is they collectively, right? They loved the movie Memento, right? They saw this guy with the 15 minutes worth of memory. It's an actual condition. I forget the name of it, but it's like amnesia, constructive amnesia or something. And they know that that's a really bad thing to have. It's incredibly entertaining. It was an amazing movie. But you can't see that you're looking in the mirror. Like that is, how was that so ridiculous with Colin Powell with his little vial? Remember his vial? I called his vial. Vial of what? I don't know, his own blood? Is he now like Angelina Jolie's dad? I mean, walking around with a vial of blood. Here, this is Saddam Hussein has this. And they've done that. Like I said, I made the joke about them refusing to even change the font, but it is true that they do it every time. And there is a Shahid Bolson. He goes. He's been like taken down for promoting radical Islamism and all this stuff, but his stuff about the American history and how white people have completely misunderstood or not understood our own history is amazing. It's really logical and really on point. And one of the things that he says is what a lot of us say. We'll say that history repeats. And then there was Twain said, well, it doesn't necessarily repeat, but it rhymes. And his thing is, no, it just keeps going. It's the same. It doesn't repeat. We are repeating it. We're coming back in. It's the same thing over and over and over again. And we put on new, the Western pictures with their fake, houses and the walls, the like costumes with the new, okay, round them up. This is the new one. And if you say, but I've seen this before. I don't think this worked out all that well. Shh. You're an idiot. You're a rabble rouser. Right? Or now they'll say you're a, terrorist. You're not going along. I mean, in the course of human evolution, there's always been some continuity between not going along and not capitulating all the time, right? This marches across history and cultures, and you go into, there are language differences. There's like in the American idiom, you have the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Right. And in the East Asian idiom in China, you have it's the nail that sticks out that gets hit on the head. Right. Very similar idiomatic expressions that kind of fill out that continuum. It's a spectrum. Obviously, you have to be able to fit in. But to what? We're being asked nowadays to fit into what I think is you use the word psychopathic. I think it is a psychosis. I think it's a collectively self-induced psychosis. And to push the title of our little discussion here, it is pushing us toward nuclear confrontation. If you just do the same thing, why does everyone loves AI doesn't exist, right? That's all crap. It's algorithms, and everybody loves algorithmic programs because it's how they want their life to run, not to make any decisions ever, and just have it be, repetitive and redundant. But it happens automatically. And this is what happens when things get so automatized. Why is the military industrial complex? Why did you do this yesterday? Well, that's what we always do.